Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. So here I have everything out around me, and what I'm going to use is this Made to Surprise. It's the 5x7 Terrific Towers die set, and this is going to make a 5x7 card. I'm going to use these edges, which you can also get. I'm using the balloon ones, and because of that it'll make our card a little bit wider, so we'll make our own envelope for that. So with these dies that we get, this is what we're going to use for our base. This die will cut out the base of our card, and I have some 300 GSM card here that I have used for this base. I've also used some patterned paper from some of my 12x12 paper pads. It needs to be heavier, at least over 200 GSM, but when you put all your mats and layers on top, it makes it quite a solid card. I have different glues that I also use for gluing down, but I have to recommend the Kalal glue. It's a solvent glue, and so there is a slight smell from it, but when this glue dries, it dries rock solid, and again it will give strength to your project or your card. So this is the base of our card, and this is the die I've used for the base. I've also used some of the other dies that comes in this die set. I have used my little border strips here, and I have cut out 4 of these. 2 are in gold and 2 are in green, and I've cut out 4 of these strips. I've also cut out 2 of these, and this is from the large border die here. And I have cut out a white piece of card and some of my green glitter card here using this smaller die. So one of these will go on here and one on here. I've also cut out this piece of card. So this piece of card measures 2 3/8 by 6 3/8, and that's because I want it to sit inside this smaller die, this piece of patterned paper. So this one cuts out 2.5 by 6.5, and I want to sit another piece in on this like that. So this will be for the back of my card, and this will be the center, the sentiment panel, you know, that you can write to and from whoever on that. I've also die cut out all these little pieces as well, and that comes on this. This will cut out these little pieces, and they will then embellish our little pop-up parts. I've cut out a plethora of the balloons. I've used both of these sizes as well as this size, which is on this die here. So this is the edge that I'm using. I'm used all these balloons to edge along it, and I've also cut out an extra 5. I've also cut out 5 of these little balloons as well, and that's what will embellish our card. So we have all our parts and bits ready, other than stamping our sentiment, and I will probably use the happy birthday here. Let's go ahead and assemble our card. So for the card base, there are score lines that run through this, and Sam has plenty of tutorials on how to put them together, but I'm going to quickly show you how I do it, which is how Sam has recommended. So that's our card base folded and scored into the correct shape. It does take a little bit of time to manipulate this, and I was using 300 GSM cards, so it made it a little bit harder to get it to manipulate over. But once I got the score lines pressed into place, it folded perfectly. And I'm delighted with that card base. I'm really pleased with that. So let's go ahead now and get all our other pieces glued and ready to put onto our card. I'm moving on to these strips that I have cut out. Now, I did say to cut out 4 of each, but you only need 2 of each. I'm not going to use 2 of these on the front of the card because I'm using the edges on the front, so I'm only going to need 2 of these little panels for on the back. So that's all I'm going to use, and I'll keep the rest for another card. Now I'm going to stick down my little gold balloons to the edges that I have cut out, and these edges, they will add on to the sides of our cards. So the card base you can see here on the desk, this will fit into a 5x7 envelope. But if you add the edges, which I have die cut out here, it makes the card base 6.5 by 7. So you'll need to make your own envelope for that. And that's what I'm going to do, and you'll see that in the pictures at the end. But I think it just makes this card go from a wow card to a oh wow card. And that's the response that I got to a card that I've made similar like this. I made a recent card for my mother and father-in-law, and it was an anniversary card for them, and the reaction was fabulous. It really was. I was delighted with it. So these are the dies that I used for the edges, and they have lovely flowers and stars and balloons. And with this die, when you die cut out your left and your right, in order to get a mirror image, you have to actually die cut from behind. So I've taken my die and I've put it on top of my pattern paper, and it's die cut out one side, my left hand side. And then I've taken the die and put it behind my pattern paper and die cut that out, and that has given me the mirror image from my right to my left hand side. So I just wanted to let you know that unless you wanted the balloons, one side would be upside down rather than a mirror image. That's what I did to make sure that worked out right for me. And I think the only other edge dies that you need to do that for is the gift boxes or the presents edge dies that you'll need to do that for. But for the other ones, the stars, the flowers and the dragonflies, I don't think you'll actually need to do the mirror imaging like what I've done here. So now I'm just going to stick down all the rest of my mats and layers. I have my stamping platform out now on my desk, and I'm going to stamp down the big birthday sentiment as well as the happy. And I'm going to prep my stamp because this is the first time I've used it. So what I like to do is either I give my stamps a wipe, which is basically what I do when I get them, but then to prep them, what I like to do is I like to use my Versamark sticky ink. It's what you use for embossing. I like to use that on the stamps. Then I'm going to take my VersaFine Onyx Black ink and I'm going to put that on the stamps and stamp that down then using the Misty. And I will stamp this a couple of times. I think it's 3 times I'm going to stamp it down, but you don't have to worry if you don't get a good stamping on any stamps that you use. You can take a black pen or marker, and I have the Memento marker, and I use that to touch up any of my stamps that don't stamp properly or give a good definite impression. And sometimes that can be down to the paper you're using as well. I find that some of the papers that I use, they're not as good quality as others, and I find that when I stamp down on them, they don't receive the ink very well. So it can be down to how you're stamping, what you're stamping on, and the ink that you're using. I'm going to clean my stamp now with a nice damp cloth, and I'm going to clean the stamping platform. I've taken one of the pages and I've laminated it. That way I can just wipe off that and reuse it every time. So I have my second piece of white card, and I'm going to stamp a sentiment on that next. I'm going to use a stamp from my stash, and it's Card Making Magic. It's the Christina collection, and it's verses. So I'm going to place that down on my white piece of card, and again I'm going to use my VersaFine Onyx black ink and stamp that a couple of times to get a nice finish. And that'll be the 2 sentiments, one for the front of our card and the one for the inside of our card, all stamped and ready to go. I have my sentiments now stuck down to my card on the front as well as the back. I've put some of my die cut out balloons on the sentiment at the back, and I have fussied around with the placement of my balloons at the front, and I have decided on where I want them, and I've started sticking them down using my art glitter glue. I've used that for sticking most of the card down, and I'm also using 3M foam tape on some of the balloons. So some of the balloons on the front of the card will be raised up, and then some will be stuck down flat onto the card itself. For finishing touches, I've gone over the happy and birthday using my glossy accents. I'm going to add some sequins in a teal colour and gold. I'm going to stick them down to the card, and then I'm going to fill them in using the glossy accents as well, and it gives a nice look to the sequins. So here's some images of the card we've made. I hope you've enjoyed my tutorial, and if you have, you might click on the like button. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing, and if not, you might consider hitting the subscribe button down below and click on the bell icon so you'll receive notifications of when I post a new video. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe. Bye for now.